Greetings, mathematicians, and welcome to video 2 on solving. 2. Everything's backwards. 2. Alright, so last time what we did is we solved by using addition or subtraction. In solving 2, we're going to solve by using multiplication or division. Okay? The first problem on your worksheet says x divided by 2 equals 7. Okay, so when we solve using multiplication or division, all we have to do is look to the side of the equation where the variable is and try to decide what's happening. In this case, that fraction bar means division, so we're dividing. It says take x and divide by 2. So we do the opposite. That means that instead of dividing by 2, what I'm going to do is multiply by 2 on both sides. Alright? Now, you can think of this as like 2 over 1, and if you remember how to deal with fractions, you can cross-cancel your 2's out, and that leaves you with an x over 1 as your answer. Now, we don't usually write things over 1, because if we take a number and we divide it by 1, we just still have that number. For example, if I took 3 and divided by 1, I'd still have 3. So I don't write something like 3 over 1. That means 3 divided by 1. I could just write 3. And instead of saying x over 1, I can just say x. So that side just gives me my x. Over here I do need to multiply 7 times 2, and that gives me 14. Ta-da! That's our answer, 14. Alright, that was number 1 from your worksheet. Let's do problem, oh gosh, what's the hardest one there? I think 20 actually looks harder than 21, so let's try number 20. That one says negative 19 is equal to negative 1 over 2 times d. Groovy. Alright, how do we solve? Well, we look for what's going on. Over here it says I'm multiplying by negative 1/2. There's an implied multiplication here that says negative 1/2 times d. So if we want to do the opposite of that, we're going to have to multiply, we're going to have to divide. So we're multiplying by negative 1/2. The opposite would be to divide by 1/2. Let's talk about how to divide by fractions. Let's say I had something like 3/4 divided by 1/2. Now hopefully previously in your math classes they've told you you need to invert and multiply. Maybe they told you something like copy dot flip, or they told you like keep it, change it, flip it or something. However you want to think about that, a problem like 3/4 would become in your copy that down, dot, remember the dot means multiplication, so we're changing that. So if you do copy dot and flip, you flip your second fraction upside down, that would be copy this down, change it to multiplication, flip over that second fraction. Some people call that keep it, change it, flip it. So we kept the first term, we changed to multiplication, and then we flipped that upside down. In the old days, or most mathematicians would say, you're going to invert, which means to flip this upside down, and multiply. However you want to look at that, when you divide by fractions, you have to change the multiplication of what's called the inverse. You flip it upside down. So if we were doing a problem like this one, multiplication is just straight across. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 1 is 4. So you get 6/4. Of course, that's where people want to stop, but we need to reduce. We notice maybe that, see, I think of 6 is 2 times 3, and I think of 4 is 2 times 2, and I notice there's a 2 upstairs and a 2 downstairs, and they can cancel each other, and that leaves me with 3 halves. That's how you do stuff when you're trying to divide by a fraction. Let's apply those same techniques to the above problem. Don't worry, the above problem is easier than the one I just showed you. At some point, though, you do want to make sure you understand how to work with fractions, because, you know, they crop up every once in a while. All right, so let's go to the top. Now, we said we're going to multiply by negative 1/2, because that's what's happening to our variable. Remember, we have to work with the side of the variable, and we kind of leave the variable alone, and we always mess with the stuff that's on the side with the variable. So I'm taking d and I'm multiplying by negative 1/2, and so to undo that, I'm going to invert the negative 1/2 and make it a negative 2/1 and multiply by that. That's really dividing by 1/2. Copy dot flip would say multiply by the inverse or the reciprocal. So we just did that. And if you do that to that side, you got to do it to the other side. So we're multiplying by a negative 2/1. Now, negative times negative, why, that's a positive. 2 times 19, that must give me like, what, 38? And notice that your 2's cross cancel, and you're left with and a negative times a negative is a positive, so you're just left with a 1d on that side. So you got 38 is equal to your d. Groovy, that's all there is to it. So what we've done today, just to review, we started off and we found out if you have division, you're going to multiply. So while we were dividing by 2 originally, we ended up multiplying by 2. And then in these ones, because they're fractions, and fractions are fun, so you got to look at that. But we were multiplying by negative 1/2, so what we ended up doing was dividing by negative 1/2, and of course that means multiply by the inverse. So there you go. There's 2 problems. Hopefully you followed that all right. If not, ask questions, because I'll probably be around in class to help you out. But keep chugging along on the worksheet. When you're done, you'll probably figure out why are poets poor? I don't know. Do your problems, find out. Get a chuckle out of that, and have fun. And we'll talk to you next video.